Hey everybody, welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. Today we're going to talk a little bit about goblins and tokens. And the mob boss of all mob bosses, Mr. Krenko himself. Nothing puts goblins into play quite like he does. Now, before we get into the goblin part, let's talk about the untapping. Now, obviously I wanted to get as much stuff in here as possible that could untap him. Umbra Mantle, y'all know, is my go-to card for generals with a tap ability. The ability to activate this multiple times in a turn, because you equip the Umbra Mantle, you tap him to double your goblins, which is at least one, because he's a goblin himself. 3 mana, untap him, do it again, and you just keep doubling up your goblins for every 3 mana that you have. I like the fact that the reason why I like tap generals is because this way with Umbra Mantle you don't have to put them in combat danger. He just taps to produce a stupid amount of goblins. So Umbra Mantle's one of the cards to untap. I use the stone. 1 mana. It's one use, just kind of like the puppet strings is one use. But the Sword of the Paragons is another one that is 3 mana colon. So, and it also has the buff to either the front or the back, which is cool. But now, let's get to making some goblin tokens. Siege Game Commander, been making tokens since forever. He comes in with his boys, just the Siege King Commander and Krenko, because he brings 3. What do you got? 5 goblins. Now you're tapping Krenko to get 5 goblins, assuming you don't have any untapped shenanigans. We have the slide, because, all goblins love to go to the water park, and they love that goblin slide. Cast a non-creature spell. We have a lot of non-creature spells that actually put tokens into play, so you can pay an extra 1, get an extra 1/1 goblin out of all your cards. I'm just going to roll through these quick. The Krenko's Command, Mog Alarm, empty the Warrens. You may or may not get Storm off. This is not a Storm deck. I don't have a lot of the fast mana cards, but hey, if you can get 2, 4, 6, it could be something. The Rally, Outburst, Scouts, Fodder. All those put in multiple goblin tokens, and they certainly are offensive. FYI, I love goblins are our comic relief in this game. Their flavor text is just outstanding. The name of the card, Goblin Offensive, and the flavor text, they certainly are. Anyway, X Goblins, X and 3 mana, pretty neat. Goblin Assault does have that nasty drawback of they have to attack. However, that's kind of what we plan on doing with them anyway, so meh. The Trumpeteer makes a bunch because, you're going to play him face down. Of course, nobody's going to know it's a Trumpeteer. Well, actually, they are because, it's the only card you play in this deck. Beetleback Chief, Chancellor of the Forge, and Mog War Marshal. Now, all of those make the tokens. And of course, then I wanted, I was like, well, we're making goblin tokens, so let's talk a little goblin tribal, if you will. So, the Gutter Snipe I put in there because there's a lot of instants and sorceries, I might as well deal 2 damage to each opponent many, many times. Reckless One, a lot of dudes, a lot of goblins. The Chieftain, the War Chief, the King. I do not own a general from Portal or Portal 2, so Pooferos would also be a good one for the deck. However, I was trying to stick with goblins, kind of a tribal thing. But I do have a few non-goblins in here, so I guess Pooferos wouldn't hurt anything. If I ever get an extra copy of Pooferos, he'll definitely be in here because let's face it, the Pooferos and Krenko are ridiculous together. So the Skirt Prospector is a ton of mana. The Goblin Matron. The Mimic is, I see me using the Mimic in like every tribal card or every tribal deck I have till the end of time, because this card is just amazing at 2 mana. It really, really is. Let me see if I can't do something to clear that up a little bit. Krenko's reading pretty good, but there we go. Goblin Recruiter. Now, I remember pulling this from Visions packs thinking this was amazing, so it's really amazing in this particular deck. Frenzy Goblin. You can make sure that one creature does not block. Goblin Guide. Mainly because I've got it and I don't have another use for it, and it's a 1 mana 2/2 with haste, which in EDH is not, his drawback is not as hardcore of a drawback, let's face it, than a competitive 60 card. Rabble. He's good. I mean, he makes dudes and so good. And of course the Horde of Augurs. That led me down to things like, well, I want to do Goblin Bombardment, so I can sack them if, in response to somebody blowing up the board, I can just sack them to do some damage. And then the Goblin Shrine, because we're going deep, deep down this Goblin Tribal rabbit hole here, or Goblin hole, as it were. The Goblin War Drums, the Goblin Grenade, and even Fervor. I chose this particular art of Fervor because, hello, I mean, it's just a card full of goblins. Now, Raid Bombardment is another sick and disgusting card for it, as well as Impact Tremors. Impact Tremors and Krenko alone can end a game swiftly. Of course, I have a Soul Ring. Quest for the Goblin Lord. Click Slither. I will get that name right. I apologize if that sounded like something weird. Anyway, Click Slither. It's a heck of a card. It eats goblins. Trample. Haste. This can be the... It's not a primary win con, but it is a I gotta bust through this turn, and that guy's gotta die kind of card. This is the only non-goblin in the deck, so I don't know. He may not. The fact that he specifically eats goblins kind of makes him on theme, but I don't know. I just feel kind of dirty having a non-tribe in my tribal deck. The Eldrazi Monument. I will have the tokens to feed it every turn, and it does make your goblins flying and +1 and indestructible. And now I'm not using the Coat of Arms because Coat of Arms is the biggest double-edged sword ever. And I know, why would you want a sword if it only has one edge? But anyway, Coat of Arms, I have actually lost more games after I've cast Coat of Arms. Now, some decks I still use it. Some decks you just don't care. Goblins probably wouldn't care either. Coat of Arms, because, I mean, the original Coat of Arms had goblin art in it. But I find myself shy on Coat of Arms. So I'm using Eldrazi Monument in its stead. Now, I would probably run both. And if I get another copy of the coat, I probably will, of that specific art. Not like the Night one or anything. New cards here from Amonkhet. Throne of the God Pharaoh just made it into the deck because why not? Each opponent. I've played this deck before, obviously before the Amonkhet cards, but it's a fierce deck, and if you get the right cards, you just about don't even have to swing. But when you do swing cards like this, it just plays right into your theory of what you want to do. Might as well make them red creatures cheaper, and you get to filter a little bit. So when you cast creatures, now granted, this may not be the strongest card for the deck, but it does make a decent percentage of your deck cheaper, and you get to filter. So maybe, I don't know, I'm trying this one out. But as far as card drawing, Skull Clamp is the way and the light, I'm telling you. Because that's exactly what I want to do, is I want to take, here, Goblin, put this hat on. I promise it fits. It's just, you cast it, and then it's 1 mana, draw 2 cards. Because you throw it on a Goblin, the Goblin dies, you draw 2 cards when the creature dies. Now, Goblin War Strike can just absolutely finish somebody off. So can Mob Justice. Roar of the Crowd. Now, Brightstone Ritual's in there just simply because it's too good not to play with. I mean, this has the potential to, if you do have your Umbra Mantle on Krenko and you can activate it a couple times and you can get an insane amount of mana out of this to keep activating it and maybe just win with Impact Tremors or something. It's just, Brightstone Ritual is too good not to use. Now, I do have 2 versions essentially of the same card. I have the Trumpet Blast, which gives +2 to your team, and the Arcane version of +2 to your team. Now, by Force, towards the utility cards now, obviously. By Force is another just excellent card for Mom and Cat. It's plain, simple, love it. Whisper Silk Cloak keeps people's eyes and spells off of Krenko. Now, you got to be careful because you won't be able to equip, because equip does target, so you're going to want, another option or to get your equipment on your guy first. More utility, Reverberate is, I view this as a red counter spell, I really do. It just changes the target of their path or their whatever. Desperate Ritual is one of the last fast mana cards in here. This is probably the spot for either the Coat or the Pooferos or something like that. This is kind of why I haven't taken it out yet and just replaced it with a Mountain or something. But this is where that spot's going to be. Now, I feel like I have to play with Tarfire just because it is Tribal Goblins. And I have to play with that version of Detonate. Goblins have 42 different words for ow. We are looting ever so faithlessly. A Lightning Bolt and a Rift Bolt can help take out some walkers just in case that they have got some kind of... Now, Propaganda is a problem. Or Propaganda type effects. Ghostly Prison, Coscom Falls. Yeah, I said Coscom Falls. Coscom Falls is a black Propaganda. Look it up. It's an amazing card. It's black. But I'm playing with Active Volcano because blue is a thing. Obviously, it's the natural enemy. Active Volcano. Now, to this day, and I've been playing for probably since this card came out. Well, Legends had just come out when I started playing. But anyway, I don't think I have ever used Active Volcano to bounce an island. Never. I have used it to kill, oh my gosh, Vesuvian Doppelgangers and Lords of Atlantis, and I've used it to kill all kinds of stuff. And that's pretty much what it's in there for. Blue's a very popular color. A lot of multicolor generals, and a lot of them have blue in it. So, yeah. But this is pretty much you're not going to use your general this turn. Or, for God's sakes, it kills Omniscience. This is as close to enchantment removal as we get. It takes out the Propaganda. It takes out the Omniscience. Takes out a lot of stuff. The last one I want to talk about is Haze of Rage. Now, this card is kind of outstanding. Buyback and Storm. Let's let that sink in a minute. So it costs 2 to buy it back. So to cast it and buy it, 4 mana. So for 4 mana, your team gets +1. For more mana, your team gets +1 Storm. So you've already cast a spell once this turn. So you get your original +1 +2 more. And every time you cast it, it just stacks up like bowling pins. Yeah. Because bowling pins, you have 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4, and that makes your 10 frame. Anyway, it's so, well, no, because the third time you have 2 previous. This is ridiculous, okay? If you've got enough mana with this crazy, I have a red mana for each goblin I control, and I control a stupid amount of goblins. Oh my gosh, Haze of Rage, you can just pump it, storm. I mean, wow. Anyways, that's what I've got for Krenko. I don't near have anywhere enough goblin tokens, man. And I just absolutely love the Kenny Rogers token here. I mean, look at this. Yeah, some people have called them gremlins, which they look like, a little bit like the Gremlins movie, not the Gremlins, from Kaladesh. By the way, has it dawned on anybody else that there were no goblins on Kaladesh and there were no goblins on Amonkhet? My working theory right now is that maybe they're getting ready to do some kind of hardcore back to roots tribal thing later in the year, because they kind of do that stuff when they, like, if you'll look back before they do a heavy multicolor block, they'll do a couple of sets or a couple of blocks without multicolor or with very few artifacts, and then we go to an artifacty world or something like that. Anyway, so that's what I'm thinking, is we're going to have some more Goblin Tribal maybe into this year, maybe beginning of next year, because, it does make sense that there were no goblins on Amonkhet, because goblins are kind of haphazard, and they replace that spot with gremlins. Anyway, different story entirely. That is what I have got for Mr. Krenko, the mob boss. I do appreciate y'all watching, but right now, it's time to shuffle and cut.